Hey guys, it's Tuesday, May 12th. I want to welcome everyone that is new to the group that haven't that just joined us in the last week or two. We're doing live sessions almost every day, normally around 2:30. I just saw tons of questions again about all the CARES Act, which is the PPP, Payment Protection Program, the PUA, which is the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, which pretty much is in addition to the regular unemployment, and then a few questions about the EIDL, which is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. So these are the three current programs that are out there. Some of them have kind of almost ran out. So hopefully you guys have been on it. Let me just open up so I can see who's asking the questions. Hi, Jennifer. Hi, Jill. Another Jennifer. Hi, everyone. So I went over a few of the questions. Most of the questions are about the same, and we kind of covered them. But I am going to go over them. I'm going to take this session and also put it on our YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, now's the time, and you can always go there and review all the videos, and also use the search in our page, because again, most of these questions have been answered. Hi, Linda. So let's start in general. Um, we'll start with the EIDL, the one that came out fairly like from the start, and that's the easiest one and the one that's pretty much already ran out. So if you've taken EIDL, great, we'll talk about it. If you haven't, you can try and apply, but right now, based on what I know, they are favoring companies that do agriculture. So probably if you haven't applied yet for EIDL, your chances are really slim. So EIDL is a loan program. It's a program that existed way before COVID-19, but it just got readjusted to the current situation. It gave an option to get an advance of $1,000 per employee on a 3.75% loan up to about $10 million that is supposed to cover expenses. That was the goal for that. They made several changes. They changed the amounts. They started with 10,000 for everyone, then they reduced it to one per employee. So if you, as a sole proprietor, and I see someone who fills a Schedule C, you don't have employees, you don't have W-2, then you probably received $1,000. If you said that you had more, they didn't really check. So if you said that you had more, you probably received $1,000 per employee, max of $10,000. That loan, based on what they say, is forgivable. You don't have to return that. Hey, Raymond. Good morning. Yeah, why? It's you woke up early. It's what, 8 a.m. in Vegas, I think. Hey, Kim, and Sandy and Jill again. So EIDL. Just so people will know, you can qualify for all of these programs. Some of them you can't do together at the same time, but you can do all of these three programs. So EIDL, we kind of talked about it. What I'm seeing right now is the companies, the SBA, the Small Business Association, they are sending now the documents for the second stage. What we received, 1,000 per employee, was just the deposit, the advance. Now they're sending papers if you want to actually take the loan. So if you want to take the loan, you probably receive documentations. Remember, it's a 3.75% interest loan. Good terms in general, but just see that you need them. Hey, Nancy. So I think we covered that. If anyone has any specific questions about EIDL, now if you haven't requested EIDL yet, you can go to the SBA website. They have an option. I think option 3 was for a business under 500 employees. And I think option 1 was sole proprietor or an IC. You can try it. Based on what I know, they are now favoring agriculture. So the chances of you receiving an EIDL, if you haven't submitted yet, are really, really low. If you have already submitted and it's in their queue, hopefully you are going to get it. I received it for 2 of the businesses that I have. Hey, Carol. Good morning. So let's go to the second one that came out, which is the PPP. PPP is the Payment Protection Program. The Payment Protection Program became they started it so employers will be able to retain their employees and retain their employees, so the employees will not go on unemployment. So instead of the employees going and claiming unemployment from the state, they you will need to retain them. You will need to keep them on your payroll, whether they're working or not. You'll need to pay them, and they'll get money from you, and they can't get it from the unemployment. Now, again, this is if they're W-2s, if they're getting salary, if they're on your payroll. See, Jill said that, yeah, she wrote, I remember you mentioned that you got 4,000, so you wrote 4 employees. I don't know what to tell you about that. Will they check? I don't know. I've heard of a few people that wrote 10, so just to get it. So I don't know what to tell you, but I think the worst thing that can happen is that they will do some auditing and they might request it back. So that's the worst case. Open up, if you have a savings account, put the 3,000 in it, the extra that you were not supposed to get, and just put it aside. And in a year or 2, if they won't request any of it, it's yours to keep. That's my take. Okay. So hi, Marita Domingo. So PPP. So if you are an independent contractor, if you are a sole proprietor, you are receiving a 1099 from your suppliers. You're receiving 1099s from your host. You don't have employees. You don't give them a W-2 or a 941 or all of these forms. You're just supplying your ICs with 1099s. They are not your employees. You cannot request a PPP for them. Okay, if they are not employees, if they're not on your payroll, they're not W-2, you are not paying their payroll taxes, they are not your employees, you cannot claim your 1099 contractors under the PPP program. Okay, only if they're W-2. I hope I'm clear. If you, and we'll talk about what happened, what will happen, or what you should do if you, for some reason, received more than what you need. So what can you use the PPP for? You can use it for your own personal salary, to replace your own salary, because as a sole proprietor, you give yourself money. You either have a draw, or you just you send yourself checks, you wire the money. And how is that determined? The amount was determined by your what's called a Schedule C. A Schedule C, there's a line 31 on Schedule C, which is your net after expense before taxes amount. So after you deducted your internet cost, after you deducted your FAMs, after you deducted, I don't know, meals, entertainment, after you deducted all of that, you have that amount. That amount goes on line 31 on your Schedule C for the 2019 taxes. If you, again, haven't filed your PPP yet, or you filed them wrong, you need to base it on 2019 amounts. And that's the amount that will, again, I'll discuss it later regarding forgiveness. That's the amount that they will look at. 2019 Schedule C, line 31. That's the annual after expense tax, after expense salary. Okay. So what you should have done is take that amount and divide it by 12. That's the monthly amount. That's your a monthly salary times 2.5. And that was the amount that you should have requested and received from your PPP. So let's say, and it's capped at $100,000. So if you had $100,000 as the amount, that's the amount that was on your line 31. So $100,000 divided by 12, times 2.5. So the maximum amount that you could have received is $20,833. That's the maximum. Now, that amount includes your 8 weeks of pay plus another half for the 2.5, the half a month for your expenses, for utilities, for stuff that you can claim. And again, we'll talk about it when I go into forgiveness. But the amount is that amount on line 31 on your Schedule C. Go to your taxes, Schedule C. You should have divided by 12 times 2.5. That's the amount of the loan. Now, any questions about that? So do you write yourself weekly checks? Well, I'll talk about forgiveness once I'm done with the PPP. I just want to make sure everyone understands the PPP, the amount, and everything is good there. So we're all on the same page. Looks like it. So the next one, and again, that PPP, if you're still pending, if you're still waiting for it, it looks like almost everyone, I mean, a lot of people are receiving their PPPs. So just hold on tight. It looks like it's going to get there because a lot of big corporations are giving it back, and there's a lot of checks now, which again, I'm going to go in with forgiveness. But so hopefully you should receive your PPP if you haven't yet. Okay, so PUA, pandemic unemployment assistance. So the PUA was created. It has two things in them. One, it adds $600 every week, up to, I think right now it's 13 weeks for the 600 right now. They might add it, but I think it's 13 weeks right now that they are adding as the $600. We'll call it federal unemployment. So that's pretty. And now what they did is that they also made it that us self-employed ICs, normally we wouldn't qualify for unemployment because we don't really pay towards the pool of the unemployment insurance. The employers, again, they just don't pay it, so we normally don't qualify. So for the first time, I think ever, they are now including self-employed into the program. That was part of the CARES Act. So, and in addition, they added, I think, another 39 weeks of unemployment. So more time for regular unemployment from the state, 13 weeks of $600 federal unemployment, plus the eligibility for people that are self-employed, like I assume most of us in the group. Okay, let me just read quickly what Jennifer wrote, see if it's, she received from the PPP payroll. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, we'll talk about forgiveness. Yeah, we'll talk about forgiveness soon. Okay, so again, pandemic unemployment assistance, PUA. Okay, this is unemployment, and the Paycheck Protection Program is paycheck, is salary. Can you get them both? If you were on a salary, if you would get salary from, if you were a W-2, if you were an employee and getting your salary, can you go and get unemployment? No, you can't. It's either payment protection program, either you get your paycheck protection program, or you get unemployment. So you can't get them both, and the point is at the same time. Okay, the PPP covers 8 weeks of expenses, 8 weeks of salary plus expenses. During that time, during these 8 weeks, you cannot claim unemployment. Okay, you can't have them both. So let's say your PPP hit your account on May 1st. Okay, so May 1st, I got it into my bank. So I will use it to pay myself salary for the week of May 8th, the entire week. So starting May 4th up until May 8th, I will use that as my PPP. And then for the rest of the 8 weeks, I will use PPP that I received on May 1st. Now, the pandemic pretty much started in mid-March. You can backtrack your unemployment. In some states, end of January. I did mine, I think, mid-March, so March 15th. So I personally claimed mid-March, March 15th, up until May 1st, and then stopped. 8 weeks PPP. So May 1st plus 2 months will be probably around July 1st. So July 1st, if things don't get better, I will go back and certify for unemployment in my state to get back unemployment, unless they do another PPP, unless they do something else. So for those 8 weeks, you can't claim unemployment, but can get PUA. PUA is unemployment. PUA is a pandemic unemployment assistance. It's just a federal unemployment. You can't get them both. Now, I've been hearing some CPAs that are saying if your PPP is, let's say, $2,000, $3,000, well, let's backtrack a little bit. So what I've come up with, if you have a PPP of about $5,000, if you took the loan for $5,000, that means that you can pay yourself about 625 a week. That's about it. That's about 600, which comes up to less than what the unemployment would be. If you don't have a PPP amount of about 6, 7, maybe even more, again, depending on your state, because in New Jersey, the minimum is 231 plus 600. So 831 times 8, 6648. So if your PPP is under $7,000, it doesn't make a lot of sense to take the PPP. Okay. Now the PPP is intended for payroll protection. You certify when you, I don't know if you read the document when you took your PPP, one of the things there when you signed, you said that your intentions are to pay yourself a salary. Again, you can't pay yourself a salary and take unemployment. When you file for unemployment, they're asking, it just contradicts each other, the one and the other. Can you just hold it, not ask for forgiveness or ask for a partial, and then pay the 1% loan? I don't know. It's if you read the FAQs, if you read the actual law, they make it sound like it's a federal offense, like it's a crime to take the money that is intended for payroll only. Well, 75% of it. That's what the FAQs, that's what the kind of law, if you read it, that's what it implies. Will they come after you? I don't know. Will I risk it personally? No, I wouldn't. It's just, it doesn't look like it's worth it. If the difference is not that high and you're getting unemployment, so you're getting that 600 plus 231 or 100 or 200 or 700 or whatever that is, you're already getting the money. You can't get them both. It just doesn't make sense. There's a max. Okay. So I wouldn't recommend it. You could consult with a CPA, but ultimately remember that need to ask for forgiveness. And when you got all these federal programs, all of them, the EIDL, the PPP, the PUA, everything is federal, everything is on your social security. They know, they see it all together. When you go and ask for forgiveness, they might come and say, did you file for unemployment? And you can't say no because they know. So just remember that eventually everything, well, and when you file taxes at the end of the year, they might ask, did you get PPP? Did you get EIDL? Did you get unemployment? They'll see it. You have to report it in your taxes, and that's when you might have issues. The best thing would be is for them to ask it back. The worst thing is for them to, take some legal actions, penalties. Um, Now, what about, let's see. Yeah, so the EIDL and the PUA, yeah, the EIDL is intended to pay for business expense. It's not for salary. So yes, you can get an EIDL. You can only get the advance that is forgivable, but for the actual loan, for the 3.75% loan, you can take that and unemployment, regular unemployment, PUA, yes, no problem. Now, I'll talk about forgiveness and I'll talk about giving back the PPP. So I think, let me see. Okay, so for my personal unemployment, I think I wrote like the whole story of when I started and broke it down and gave some updates, but I'll give a quick update. Again, I'm in New Jersey. What I did applies to New Jersey, but from what I am seeing online, it's about the same. I highly recommend that you go to Google, you put your state name, so New Jersey unemployment, California unemployment, Ohio unemployment. Just Google, go to the labor department in your state and see what they offer and see what they say. Most of the states that I have seen have opened the PUA. To get the PUA, you need to apply for regular unemployment. You just as always, look on the website if they have any specific instructions on how, if you need to answer a certain question differently because you are self-employed. In New Jersey, they had like a long PDF, which I've put in the group, what you need to answer. They go question by question what you need to say if you're a self-employed individual, an IC. When you are filing for unemployment, regular unemployment through your state, make sure that if you are self-employed, that you write yourself as the employer. It's not your host. It's not your lead agent. It's not your host agency. It's not anyone. It's you. Okay? If you are not getting a W-2, you're getting a 1099. If you have a company name, put your company name and your EIN. If you don't have a company name and you're a sole proprietor and you file your taxes on your business taxes as your own, put your social security, put yourself as the employer. You are the employee, you are the employer for unemployment benefit as self-employed. I have applied back in March 28th. I backed it to March 15th, so 2 weeks prior. They sent me, I tried to call, I couldn't get anyone, so I haven't spoken to anyone over the phone. I got the debit card from Bank of America, although I requested that I will receive it as into my bank account. I entered my bank account. I requested to get it as gross and not to deduct 10% taxes on it. You have that option if you want them to deduct the taxes or not. I chose not. Again, I still got the debit card, but when I received the funds, it went back to my bank account. So if you requested it to be direct deposit and you still got the debit card, ignore it. Don't activate it. Put it in the drawer. You don't need it. So I received a letter in the mail, which I should have somewhere around here, that said, starting from the next Friday, you need to certify and start collecting but it still said zero, that you're not getting anything. I tried, I went online, it didn't let me. I received an email, which I posted on our group, that said, okay, finally now, starting this Friday, you need to certify. That was last Friday. I started, I went online, and it finally gave me the option. I submitted. I received 231 per week. I think that's the minimum that they give in New Jersey. And then I started online. I went through maybe 4 weeks, because it gives you week by week and you have to certify each and every week. At one point, I think it gave me 2 weeks together, and then it stopped. The system just crashed. It didn't let me go in. There is a phone number that I called, and they have an automated system. They're asking if you are filing on the pandemic, the PUA, press 2. I pressed it, said, sorry, you can't claim PUA over the phone. You have to do it online. So I called again, and it asked, are you filing for the PUA? I said, no, I'm filing regular. And then it allowed me to do it over the phone. Again, it's an automated system. I haven't spoken to anyone. That was Friday. Monday, the amounts hit my account, and I think I posted that as well. It was 231. That's I don't know if it's the max. I think it's the minimum. The max is 713 for regular unemployment a week. And I'll tell you what I did. We'll see. But so I got the 231 times 6 and the 600 times 5. I don't know. I think it might have just started the week after, because I requested for March 15th, and I think the PUA only starts the week after. So I got 5 weeks of 600 and 6 weeks of 231. There is a form online that you can open up a claim to maybe send them, provide them with a 1099, provide them with proof that you are receiving more. Because if I'm not mistaken, you are supposed to get 70% of your salary up to a max of 713 a week. That's what I remember. Could be 60, could be 70, could be 80. Someone wrote 731. I think it's 713, but the concept is the same. It looks like they're giving everyone 231 right now. I opened up a dispute, and I told them that I can supply 1099s, I can supply tax reports. Hopefully, I can get the additional 500 times 6 for now. That's another $3,000. And yes, that's for regular unemployment. I don't know. Again, I heard way back that they said that they're going to give 50% of the base of the regular unemployment plus the 600. I don't know. I opened a claim. They might deny it. So we shall see. I will update. Trust me, I will update everyone. So again, I haven't made any calls. I haven't spoken to anyone. I just waited, tried it all the time, and eventually it just worked. I know in New Jersey, they split up the day for half hours or 1 hour based on the last 4 digits of your social. So make sure that you go online at the time and at your time. And I think over the weekend, they have a second one in case you missed it. So just go over again. That's how it's in New Jersey. It's quite a puzzle to to find the right time and put a reminder. So I had a reminder for myself to go and report unemployment. Again, I received my PPP, so I'm not going to do any more unemployment during these weeks. After I ask for my forgiveness, I will go and backtrack it. So yes, I said I haven't spoken to anyone. EIDL and PUA, not a problem. So yeah, just go over, see what your state actually has to offer. Okay, so yeah, I'm glad that someone confirmed it's 713 is max. So thank you. I got too many numbers in my head. So do you have to be denied? I don't know. I heard that in New York you have to get denied. I my status was filed and zero benefits for almost 2 months. I don't know how long it takes them. Honestly, I mean, I didn't know. I mean, I tried. Every time you try and call, they just say it's too the whole time is too long, and you just hang up on you. So I just waited patiently, and then it fixed itself. So yeah. Um. So before I'll get. Let's see if yeah, 60% of the average weekly salary. That's what Corinne, I think that's how you pronounce your name. I'm sorry if not. But yeah, that looks like it. If you don't have anything and nothing on the books, let's say you didn't make enough in a 1099 or salary, the 231 is the minimum. But again, they haven't even requested any forms from me. They haven't requested a 1099. They haven't requested any tax information when I filed for unemployment. So they just give everyone 231. And again, I will try and see how I can bump it up. It didn't give me an option to apply for the PUA. It just asked. I made the initial unemployment back in March. A month maybe later, New Jersey said that now they're offering the PUA and had some guidelines. I went into my application and I adjusted a few things. I don't think it didn't apply again because I had the same original date and the same application number, but I did make a few adjustments. They did have more questions that they haven't had before. Like, are you when you had to pick a line as to why you are not employed or why you are not getting the money, they had more options that were more towards the C19. I have a child at home that I am or a spouse that has been sick with. They had tons of questions as to why you lost your employment. Um, so someone is saying, Jill is saying that in Texas PUA is automatic. It looks like in New Jersey now it's automatic as well. I think it just took time. And now when you file for regular unemployment, you also get the PUA. That's what it seems to me. Yeah, and Wisconsin too. I believe that right now at this point, you're getting PUAs. Annalyn is saying if you apply for unemployment insurance once you're denied, I don't know why you would get denied. And honestly, I don't know if you are denied. I would file a dispute because according to what I see on the CARES Act, everyone qualifies. If you filed for your taxes, you're not getting Social Security benefits or something, you should qualify for unemployment. Again, there's certain things that you won't qualify, but most of us will call it, and you're still working and you're not on Social Security, um, you should qualify for regular unemployment, maybe the minimum, which again, 231 in New Jersey. I know it's quite high versus other states, and I think Connecticut is even higher. But you should qualify for regular unemployment, and you should automatically be qualified for the PUA, the federal unemployment. Sonora said she called a 1-800 number about EID, and told the call center they cannot see our application. They just give out information how to fill only. I assume you mean EIDL. When you file an EIDL, you should have received a status, like a number, an application number. Hopefully you saved it and printed. From my personal experience, when I was trying to call on the PPP, which I filed a long time ago and try to see what's going on, no one had any updates, and one day it just showed up. So if you filed for your EIDL, you just gotta wait for it. Again, as I said, it seems like right now they are favoring agriculture businesses, so I don't know if EIDL is still a viable option. Pauline is saying that in Florida, she got denied twice, and finally they had the PUA insurance. if a social security as a TA, can we get unemployment as well? If on social security, I don't know. I don't know. You'll probably have to maybe consult with a CPA or try and Google it. If you're on Social Security, I don't know if you can get unemployment as well. I would say if you are normally eligible for it, in general, you should be eligible right now. Okay, so let's talk about forgiveness. And before we start forgiveness, by May 14th, which is in 2 days, the government has issued FAQs, kind of like what we're doing now, but they're on FAQ 31. FAQ 31 went out over the weekend. They are saying, which is more towards not a lot of us, but a lot of people with tons of employees or people that maybe used PPP to get for their 1099s. If you haven't followed the guidelines, if you made a mistake, by May 14th, you can and should return the PPP or maybe adjust the amount, ask to return some of it. By May 14th, which is in 2 days, you can return your funds and they shouldn't charge you anything for it. No interest, no fees, nothing. There's like a safe harbor, I think they call it. By May 14th, you are allowed to return the PPP loan without any penalties, without any fees, no questions asked. Again, I think it's more towards the people who made a mistake. Maybe you have 100 independent contractors, and you thought that maybe maybe they will qualify. You need to return it, Jill, regarding the EIDL. I haven't seen that it relates to that, but it kind of makes sense. I don't know if you can even reach out. I would probably call maybe the SBA and ask and see maybe if you want to return that 3,000 or 2,000. I don't know how many employees you actually have. Let's see. If you can collect on him. Okay, so that's the question for Social Security. Perfect. Again, I have no idea regarding Social Security, so I can't help you with that. Do you call your bank to return? You call the financial institute you received the money from. So if it's PayPal, they might transfer you to another company that process it. The loan builder, I forgot the name. Yeah, reach out to them. Tell them you made a mistake. Tell them you took the funds and you didn't understand what it meant, blah, 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 and just ask to return it. You should be able to return it based on what they say. If not, find a way to document, record the call, tell them you're speaking on a recorded line, ask for an email to send them before May 14th that shows that you want to return the funds or adjust the amount so you won't have any issues later. So forgiveness, or in general, PPP is a loan. Payment Protection Program is a 1% loan for 2 years. 2 years. First 6 months are supposed to be the interest is waived. But for the next 18 months, you need to pay that amount back in an installment program. When you applied for your loan, they ask what bank account do you want to get it in and what bank account you use to get it out. At least that's what Bank of America and I saw with PayPal. That's what they're asking. So make sure that if the loan is not fully forgiven and it can be partially forgiven, that amount that is left has to be paid back within 18 months. So if you took a $10,000, $100,000 loan, and now you need to pay it back, it's about $5,000 a month. Okay, so $5,555, and none of it is forgiven. Make sure keep them, don't use the money for anything else, or make sure that you still have the funds in the account if you need to pay it back. Okay, so make sure it's an 18 months, pretty much an 18 months loan that you need to pay, again, plus interest. Okay. I think they're still talking. You guys are still talking about the Social Security, which is great. Okay. So PPP forgiveness. PPP forgiveness in 8 weeks. Now, one of the first thing that you need to have in order to get it forgiven is to have your 2019 taxes done. To get the PPP, you could have just done like a draft Schedule C, or send a 1099 or something. But in order to get the amount forgiven, you have to show a Schedule C 2019 taxes filed, and that amount in the 2000. Now maybe you gave an estimate, maybe you wrote $70,000-$80,000 as an estimate. Now you're doing your taxes, and now that amount is 70 or 60 or 50 or higher. They will go based on that amount. And if you are self-employed, paying your own, you're not issuing yourself a W-2. You own the business, or you're a sole proprietor. They, based on the FAQs, okay, and we shall see, because they will need to get out more information about it in the next few weeks. But based on what I see, they will automatically forgive 75% out of that line 31 from your taxes. You won't need to show that you paid yourself. You won't need to show that you transfer the money to yourself. You won't need to show that it moved from one account to another. I still recommend that you do that. If you have a separate bank account, if you have a business account, if it went into your personal account, I still recommend that you take a weekly salary of the amount you receive from your PPP divided by 8. Okay, 8 weeks. So you need to pay yourself. I'm sorry, not the amount that you received. I'm sorry, the amount that is on your 2019 Schedule C line 31. Take that amount divided by 52. That's the amount of weeks that we have in a year, times 8. And that's the amount that you need to divide it. Divided by 52 and pay yourself weekly. Transfer it to your savings account. Transfer it from a personal to a business. Write yourself a check. Just document. Although, again, based on what I am seeing, they will automatically forgive 75% of the amount if you are self-employed, 1099 receiving business. Okay, let's see if people have any questions about that. So if you get PPP and also EIDL, will EIDL reduce the PPP? Looks like it. Looks like it. I've seen several drafts for the forgiveness papers, and they are asking if you filed for an EIDL and what was the advance that you received. So it looks like if you receive, let's say, $20,000, and you use 75% of it towards payroll, so 75 minus 75. No, sorry, $20,000 minus 75%. So you use $15,000 as payroll. $5,000 is supposed to be used for utilities. They might deduct the forgivable amount by the amount of EIDL that you received. So 1,000, 2,000, 4,000, whatever you got as an advance. That's how it looks like it's going to happen. I don't know. Okay, so if you get PPP, yes, reduces. If you don't get paid weekly, how would you determine 60% of your weekly? Well, you don't have to. Normally on a regular year, you wouldn't maybe pay yourself weekly. It's fine. But for these purposes, you take the amount in your line 31, Schedule C, the amount of earned income after expenses, and then just divide it by 52. That's the number of weeks that we have in the year. So let's say you had $45,000 divided by 52, so $865 a week. Every week, pay yourself $865. Again, based on what they say, you don't need to show any of it because it's silly, because you're pretty much paying yourself. So that amount should technically be forgiven automatically. But I wouldn't risk it. And I still pay my, now you want to pay yourself every other week, you want to pay yourself monthly, pay 5,000 every month. As long as you show that the money went out as an extra step, I just, it doesn't matter. Just, you have the money in one account, transfer it to another account. That's it. So yeah, if you're an S corp, personally, I'm an LLC filing as a sole proprietor. So I have a business bank account. If you're a sole proprietor, you technically are not even eligible for a bank account, for a business bank account. But it doesn't. That's what the issue was with the big banks, that they did not allow people to apply if they didn't have business corporate accounts. Whatever somehow you received, you got it. It doesn't matter. Move it from your, open up a savings, a free savings account, move it from one place to another. Again, just as an extra step, I would take it. It doesn't cost you anything. Write yourself a check. Why not? Just show a trail. Just show a trail of money. So Janelle is saying that we do issue ourselves a W-2 because we are incorporated. PUA still acceptable to apply for after our 8 weeks period of PPP funds are gone. Yes, it's the same as yeah, it's pretty much the same. You get a salary. Once that salary is over, the 8 weeks are gone, you can apply for unemployment. Unemployment should be easier because as a W-2, you pay payroll taxes and unemployment insurance, so you automatically, I mean, it shouldn't be a problem to receive it. Julie said for EIDL they got 4,000 because she has four employees. No idea if she's going to get more. You are not going to get more as an advance. You should get documentations. I got a follow-up to if I want to get more money to open up the loan and see how much I want to request. Honestly, I didn't even click on the link because right now I'm good, but I'll keep it as an option. So EIDL, if you don't need a 3.75% loan, just ignore it for now. Susan is saying she was supposed to get over 9,000, but got 323,257. I think I saw that, Susan, and honestly, I don't understand why. Unless you showed them a 1099 and also included your taxes, and they went to your Schedule C, line 31, and looked at that amount, because you should get the amount again on your Schedule C, line 31, divided by 52, divided by 12 times 2.5. That's the amount. That's it. They can't decide that you are going to get less or more from that amount. Someone made a mistake in the bank, or you submitted your 1099 and you assume that it goes based on your 1099. Your 1099 is gross, is before expenses. You don't pay taxes on everything on the 1099. You have deductions. After all the deductions, that's where, so, and maybe if you filed only 1099, maybe they took the regular deductions, the $20,000 deduction allowed, so reduced it by 20,000, and they took it based on that amount. I don't know. But a 1099 is not, if you based it on your 1099, that's not the correct amount. So let me see, Nancy, sorry you got bumped. off. If an S corp, can I divide PPP by 8 and write checks into personal accounts? Will I have more documentations? Well, if you're an S corp, are you paying yourself as a W-2, a K-1? How are you paying yourself? However you paid yourself in 2019, that's how you should pay yourself in 2020. Same thing, same progress, same process. It's just maybe you paid yourself every other month, maybe you paid yourself every 6 months. Just take that amount, divide it weekly, and pay yourself for 8 weeks. Same way as you some ways did before. So Susan, you submitted both 1099 and Schedule C. The amount that you said, the 9,000, was it based on your Schedule C, line 31, or was it based on your 1099? Should be based on your Schedule C. If you filed on your Schedule C and based on that you received less than what you should have, I would suggest reaching out to the bank for them to explain why the amount is different. Maybe they made a mistake. So Dawn is saying that she has 2 employees and myself, and finally got unemployment, and now I got the PPP, but there's not enough business, and I don't think in 8 weeks there's still revenue. Look, the PPP, the Payment Protection Program, is for you to pay your employees regardless of income coming in, regardless if they work, even if you have an office and they have to come to the office. With the PPP, they can stay home and get paycheck from you. When you apply for a PPP, means you are paying your employees their salary, whether they are working or not, so they won't go and claim unemployment. When they go and claim unemployment, the system will ask them, were you fired? If you are telling your employees, I am still paying you, you are still on my payroll, they can't go and claim unemployment. Again, that's the whole point, for you to still have them. You also have, if you have employees, again, that's not something that I'm talking about it at all, because I don't think it's relevant to 95% of us, but there are more benefits, tax credits, something to pay towards their student loan. There's tons of other programs in the CARES Act. Maybe consult with your CPA to try and figure out. But there are more options that you can provide your employees, and more tax credits and benefits that you can claim, since you do have real employees, W-2 employees. So Don said we didn't finish. Are we better off just staying out until June? Well, again, following up, if you got the PPP and you have the money, you need to pay them. They can't get unemployment. Doesn't matter if they work. Doesn't matter if you get commission. Good for you. That's an extra amount that you are getting. But if you if you are on unemployment and you're getting funds, you're still getting commissions, you're still working, you're still servicing your clients, you might have an issue there, because technically you're not supposed to be working. I don't know 100% if a work is considered when you're actually doing the work and selling, or when you're actually receiving the money. I think I spoke about it last Friday, because I can pretty much deduct the amount that I'm losing because I'm canceling bookings versus making. So I think it's a really, really fine gray area, fine line, because this has never been before. There's never a situation where people that are self-employed received unemployment. So yeah, I try and divide it as much as possible. That's why I personally prefer the PPP versus the unemployment. So Ruby's saying that it hurts her employees since they are collecting and making more. Yeah, that's a big problem. That's why when you go to the supermarket, or when you're looking at the Instacart, that's why you can't find slots, because people that are making less than, so we said the minimum is 600 plus 231 in New Jersey, so $831. 831, that's like the bare minimum times 4. That's $3,300 times. So if you made less than $40,000, and maybe if you worked at a supermarket or something that you haven't made $40,000 gross annual salary, you are better off staying home, and it's safer. That's a problem that the PPP kind of the PUA created. It makes more financial sense to stay home. So yeah, it's a problem, but your employees or you need to figure it out to see what you want to do that is best serving your business or best serving your employees or in general. They need to also consider that they need to come back. And also, if you have employees, remember that you need to keep the same amount of employees. If you had 10 and you paid $50,000 in wages, you can't now have 5 and pay the same $50,000. So giving raises to everyone because it's forgiven. You need to keep the same amount of employees. You need to keep the same amount of payments in order to get it forgiven. Otherwise, you disqualify yourself. If you don't keep the same amount of employees, because some of them left and they're now filing for unemployment, that's a problem to your system, to the program. And again, just remember that if a person goes and, well, technically, if you never fired them, they can't get unemployment. So they are breaking the law by filing for unemployment wrongfully, because you are still offering them, they still have a job. That's one of the questions where you offered a job and you declined work or something. So if they decline work, technically they're not eligible for unemployment. So Veronica is saying, so if line 31 says 19, so $19,000 divided by we said 12 months times 2.5, so you are eligible for $3,959 as the amount of the loan for the PPP. So again, 9,000 divided by 52. That's $365 a week. 800, 365. Decide what works best for you. Something to remember: PPP is net after tax. There are no taxes on the PPP. You can't claim the amount that you paid yourself as an expense. The PUA is taxable, minimum 10%. It depends on what you are. What your tax bracket is, but the unemployment is taxable. It's gross. It's before state and federal taxes. Some are taking PUA and PPP, saying they can do both as long as they're different weeks. Yes, Colleen, I explained it. That's what I'm doing. I don't see a reason why PPP, you can't do unemployment up until the 8 weeks, because PPP only covers 8 weeks. If I'm not paid for the rest, and we've suffered more than 8 weeks, so if PPP doesn't covers only that 8 weeks for the previous and post PPP, I am claiming unemployment. I don't see a reason why. It doesn't. They don't contradict each other if they're not at the same time. Let me see. Supposed to go back and average your. Yeah, I think I explained the amount. If you still have a problem with the amount, again, 31 divided by 52. That's your monthly. That's your weekly amount times 8. That's the maximum that you can deduct as payroll. If you need to see how much you qualify as the loan, take that line 31 divided by 12. That's the monthly times 2.5. That's 2 months of expenses, 2 months of payroll plus half a month for expenses. I agree, Julie. If you are giving back money, if you're canceling, looks like, well, I don't see it as volunteering. But let's say if you booked a cruise and you will make, if it's for 2022, you will make $200 in commission in 2022. But you worked now, but you cancel 3 bookings, each of them of $100. You ultimately made 0, because it's a plus and a minus. Same as if you made $1,000, but you spend $1,000 as expenses because you bought an office computer or something. So it's zero. For tax purposes, you made zero. If you earned 1,000 and you spent 1,000, you made zero money, again, for tax purposes. So the PPP is not working. Yeah, PPP might not work for some people. Yeah, don't apply. If you applied, don't sign the documents. If you signed the documents and you haven't received the money, call them. If you received the money, try and give it back by May 14th, so you won't have any fees. And now, if for some reason you can't, and you're seeing this maybe in 5 days after May 14th, around June 30th, that's the time to ask for forgiveness, which I started talking, but I haven't reached it, so I'll go back to it again. At June 30th, that's the time where maybe you should say, if you haven't used the money, if you made a mistake in the amount, that's like the last time that you need to pay it back. Because if I understood correctly, the first 6 months you're not paying any interest on it. After that, you'll start paying interest. It's only 1%, but you're still gonna pay interest on it. So send it back if you're not going to use it for what it's intended. Jill saying she received PPP. Can we backdate it to mid-March? No, you cannot. You cannot pay future salaries. You can't pay yourself for what happened prior to it hit your account on April 1st, on May 1st. That's starting when the money you received it. That's when you need to start paying yourself. You can't backtrack it. You can't pay it. That was actually one of the FAQs. No, you're not allowed to pay yourself for any other. You can't pay yourself now for July, okay, or for previous time. Only for the 8 weeks within the date it was funded. And someone actually wrote that, I think, now. So who wrote it? I missed it, but I see. That's why I can't. And I think I showed it before. I can't see when it says Facebook user. I'll put a. There's a link on the system that allows my system to actually connect with Facebook and see who writes what. So sorry, I can't see who wrote it, but you're absolutely correct. Okay. So yeah, I think covered most of or all the questions. Yeah, I saw Annalyn posted a few times that if she wrote, when you're filing for unemployment, it asks how much money you received during that week. If you say that you received funds, might disqualify you, or maybe that takes you into like a side room that they need to figure out what's going on and how come you got the money. So they need to go over your application again. So it's tricky when you're on unemployment versus when you're on PPP. If you're on PPP, you're getting your paycheck from the government, you can still work. If you made extra commission during that time, good for you. You can take them both, no problem. When you're on PUA, when you're on unemployment, you are not supposed to be working. When you certify, they ask if you worked, even if it's commission based, even if you haven't received the funds, but you actually worked, then that technically considers work. You need to put that amount. That amount might disqualify you for that week. PUA, yes, PUA, Jill, you can backdate PUA. See when you stopped getting commissions, see when you start well, again, going based on it, they calculate the time that you work. So see when you stopped making bookings, and when you stopped making bookings, for us, it was around March 13th, or again, let's say when the amount of cancellations were higher than the amount of bookings. Again, for tax purposes, minus plus, you haven't made any money. That's the amount that you can start. You can backdate it. In some states, up until end of January, I think January 27th was the date. I did March 15th. But yes, you can backdate unemployment. The PUA only started end of March, but you can get regular unemployment starting January 27th. Again, in some states, the PUA is only valid for 13 weeks right now, starting somewhere mid. I think again, I qualified for 6 weeks of unemployment, 5 weeks of PUA. So during that week, that's when it started. So I lost 1 week. So I think the week of the 15th doesn't qualify. So around March 22nd, 27th, something like that, that's when the PUA actually starts. Joe is saying that in Texas, it's when you received your commission. I tend to agree. It makes more sense because if I sell something in November of 2019 and receive the funds in 2020, that's when I pay my taxes. That's when I record the income. I totally agree to what Texas, but again, Texas, don't forget, Texas, you don't pay taxes. There's no state taxes, so they can say whatever they want. You're not paying taxes on the amounts. It's federal. So if the federal guidelines say that it's payment when you actually work, then I think that's what counts. But I agree. It makes more sense. It's when you receive the actual funds. But again, we'll see. Again, this is a never before situation. It never happened before, where people that are self-employed, people that can actually get money and don't really, they trust you to report it. So it's a little tricky. Joy, so you divide the PPP by 8 weeks or 10 weeks? I thought it was 2.5 earning. Yes and yes. It's 2.5 from the earnings. 2 months, 8 weeks goes to payroll. The half, the 2 weeks, or the half of it goes to expenses, goes to utilities, which again I haven't reached the the forgiveness yet, but that's, yes, it's 8 weeks of pay plus another 2 more weeks worth for utilities, for expenses. What happens when protection? Yeah, that's what happens when protected commission comes in while on UAI. Again, you haven't technically worked during that time. Again, I'm going based on what New Jersey is saying. If you haven't really worked, you pretty much closed your business for the 8 weeks, but money came in, but you haven't worked. It's like, you made the money a few months ago and they said the check is in the mail and you only received it later. If possible, ask your host to maybe mail you checks and not do deposits. Even if you have to pay $5 for the checks, hold the checks, deposit them after you're done with the PUA. I don't know. Maybe it's a workaround. I hope it's legal. If it's not, I'm sorry, I'm not a CPA, but I'm just brainstorming now. If you don't want to show money coming into your account and technically you haven't worked during that time, so I think you're fine. I don't think I'm telling you guys to do anything illegal. But if you don't want to show it on your accounts, just don't deposit it. Wait for 8 weeks or 10 weeks, whatever the unemployment runs out, and then do it. And Ruby, I'm talking about commissions that were received, not working. Again, to me, it makes sense because you technically did not work. Your business was closed. I don't see a reason why, even if you deposit the money in your account, that it's illegal because you haven't technically worked. But if you want to get it clear, yeah, again, if you have to pay I would pay you if you have ICs. I would pay them if they want to receive it by check. I'll send them the check. If they don't want to deposit, that's on them. So yeah, we don't withhold any payments. So Ruby, I 100% agree with you. If you are supposed to pay your ICs, pay them. Don't withhold any funds. Don't withhold anything. Pay them whatever they want to do with it. I suggest like Ruby said now, to ask your CPA, ask your accountant. There seem to be like two models, whether the time counts the time that you actually made money, the actual money came in, or when you worked, when you actually sold it. I don't know. It seems like every state does something differently. I can see the logic in both. Okay. Okay, let's go into forgiveness, and then I'll go back to questions. So forgiveness. Let's say you received $20,000 as a loan. Okay, that was the PPP amount. That was the total amount. That's what you qualified for. $20,000. $20,000 divided by 52, 385 times 8 weeks. You know what? Let's do that. Yeah, that's fine. I'm sorry. Let's do it again. We said 20,000 divided by 52. That's 384 times 8. No, I'm doing something wrong. So the I'm sorry. The $20,000 is the amount that you need to pay. That's the amount that you've received. Okay, that's not the amount that you pay yourself as salary. We calculated it based on just 1 second. 50, right? Yeah, we had $50,000 divided by 12 times 2.5. No, well, I'll try not to make it too complicated. Okay, so let's say you received $20,000. That was your the PPP amount that you received. Okay, that's based on about $100,000 in gross in after taxes line 31. So you had $100,000 in your Schedule C. That's the amount that you received. That's the amount that you qualified based on it. So $20,000. That's what you received as a loan. You take that. You take the $100,000. Okay, the $100,000 that you were supposed to get as an income after taxes, divided by 52. That's $1,923 a week times 8. That's $15,384. Okay, that's the amount that should be automatically forgiven. Okay, if I lost anyone with the numbers, I'll go back to it. Okay, but the amount you received, you take the line 31 from your taxes divided by 52. That's the amount per week times 8 for 8 weeks. That's the amount that you should technically receive automatic forgiveness for. So in my specific situation, we had $100,000, which was the max. 20,000 was received as the loan. The amount is $1,900 every week times 8. That's about $15,000. So $15,000, which represents 75% of the amount that I received from the loan, has to go to payroll. Okay, so you received $20,000 as the loan amount. 75% of it has to be towards payroll. Can it be more? Yes, but it has to be based on your 2019 Schedule C taxes. You can't pay yourself more. Okay, you're not allowed to pay yourself using that loan more money. You can't give yourself a raise. Say last year I made 50, and this year I want to pay myself 80 because that's the amount that I received. I received it. I'm just going to divide it by 8 and give myself an increase and settle it, and so everything is forgiven. No, it won't work like that. 75%, which should equal the amount of the amount that you would regularly received based on 2019 numbers. Where does the rest of the 25% go? The rest of the 25% needs to go to approved expenses that existed before February and preferably were on your Schedule C of 2019. So if you have, let's say, internet cost, phone bills, electricity, if you had an office, anything that you had any plans, maybe something with your cell phone, something that is a car, something that you normally would expense on your business. And when I say normally, not hypothetically, it had to be before February of 2019. You had that payment, the program was existed before, it's not something new that you just started, and preferably you already showed it in your taxes for 2019. It will be a lot easier to prove since you already deducted. And remember, the amount of the loan that you received was after expenses, so you deducted. Look at all the, when you look at your Schedule C, above the line 31, there are all these expenses, whether you took like a fam trip or something. All of these expenses, again, fam trip will not be covered under the PPP, but all of these utilities that you normally expense, you need to have a track and see them. Yes, I'm sorry, Carol, February of 2020. Yes, you are correct. Before, I think it was February 15th of 2020. Yes, that you needed to have that before, but it preferably appears in your 2019 taxes. So one of the key, most important document that you will need for your loan forgiveness is your taxes. Your taxes, your filed taxes, your Schedule C for 2019. File your taxes. You have about a month and a half now. File your taxes, whether you do it on your own or you have a tax advisor. File your taxes. Make sure that the amount there equals to the amount that you based on the loan. If you haven't, you might have an issue with forgiveness. It's okay if you made less money than you thought or more money than you thought. If you made more, you can use, if you thought that you were going to get 50, but you actually got 60, or maybe you want to reduce some of the deductions and do 60, you can do 60 and base your weekly pay based on that 60. And then you're not giving yourself a raise. That means that you pretty much ask for less money in the loan, and then you just pay it all. You get it all. If you file for unemployment, is that the same saying that you furloughed as an employee? We'll get to it. I'm not sure. Maybe explain it a little bit better. Or I don't really understand the question. So in order to show the 75%, I said it before, you can maybe pay yourself, move it from checking to savings, move it from a business to a personal. Based on what I'm seeing with the FAQs, you will be automatically forgiven for 75%. You don't need to show it. I will probably show it just in case if they ask. They might ask for how much you requested for the EIDL and deduct it from the forgivable amount. Okay, so if you qualified for $20,000 and you got 1,000 or 4,000 as an EIDL, but you qualified for everything else, then you'll still have $4,000 as a 1% loan, which you can pay at that time or pay it within monthly payments for 18 months. Now, how to show? You need to show the expense existed before February of 2020, and again, as I said, preferably on your 2019 deductions. So I would have the bill for January, February, let's say January or let's say February, because it needed to start February. So February through June or July. Show the bill. So get the online documents, get the paper, scan them, put everything in a folder, show that the amount, the bill existed before February. meaning you had your phone bill, you had your Verizon, the internet, the electricity bill. It existed before February of 2020. Show on every month that it was paid. Okay, that you didn't paid extra in May to cover August, or show that you actually paid the amount that you needed, whether to show it on your credit card, whether to show it from your bank account, whether to show the following month, showing circle that it was paid. Just you have to show that you had the bill, that it exists before that date, that you paid it, and that you paid it from your bank account, from the account that received the funds. So if you have all of these, then all the amounts that you put in should be forgiven. Can it be partially forgiven? Yes. So if you took 20,000 and you can only prove 10,000 or 15,000 or 18,000, the rest will be a loan. The rest will not be forgiven. So you can be partially forgiven for the amount. I would start working on it. If you haven't done your taxes, start getting the bills. Make sure that everything is documented. You will have to sit down. I don't know if it's physically sit down or a Zoom sit down or send all the documents like we did for the PPP, but make sure that you have all the documents. Okay. The bank up until now should, except for Susan's case, just gave the amount that you requested. They didn't check. They didn't need to check. The obligation to request the amount and how much was on you. Everyone and anyone could have just requested. You could have created a draft Schedule C, wrote that you paid yourself $100,000, requested 20,000, done. You could have done it if you wanted to. Now on June 30th or after the 8 weeks, now is the time to prove. Now is the time to show how the money was spent, if you were eligible for it, because if not, again, if you show intent, like you did something wrong, okay, you claim it on purpose, they might ask for penalties or something. But if you went based on your correct numbers and you just didn't qualify, you will just have that amount or the rest of the amount as a loan. Has anyone been able to clarify if we are still to pay federal taxes on the payroll? Yes, you are paying. You need to pay federal taxes on your payroll, and that you cannot use PPP funds for it. You don't carry the expense. You can't file the expense as well, but you pay the payroll taxes, and the payroll taxes cannot come from the PPP because it's after taxes money. So based on what I know and based on what I've seen, payroll taxes. So that's the employer's portion. That's what the employer is giving the federal. The government is giving your employees the funds for free. You need to cover their payroll taxes. EIDL forgiveness. Based on the application, the advance for the EIDL is automatically forgiven, even if you don't qualify for the actual loan. Even if you don't request the loan, EIDL is supposed to be the advance is supposed to be 100% forgiven. That's why they changed it from normal $10,000 to one per employee, because they wanted to eliminate the chances of people just requesting $10,000 and not giving it back. So EIDL should be completely, the advance should be completely 100% forgivable. If you want to be 100% certain, I would document the amount, because it's towards utilities. Don't use the funds for the EIDL before you received your PPP or after. Don't do it at the same time. So if they ever come to you and say, okay, we gave you $1,000 towards your expenses for the business, how did you pay them? Show that you paid your internet, whatever, March, April, May, up or and then PPP was used for June, July, or something like that. Just don't show it at the same time. So you have you will need to prove stuff later if they'll come to you and ask you in your taxes or anywhere, did you receive it? And if not, they'll claim it back. If do you have to use it by June 30th? No. I think it's the loan itself when you request it. I think the term is 2 or even more, 2 to 10 years. It depends. But remember, it's a loan. It's a 3.75% loan. So yeah, you should be able to use it anytime. I wouldn't use it during the same 8 weeks. They're different programs, but they're coming from the same pocket. So I would avoid double dipping of any on these programs at the same time. For taxes, not on the actual part of what, okay, I think Donna is replying to Don, which I missed maybe the questions. Oh, the federal payroll. And Julie, the forgivable part, the EIDL, the forgivable part is just the advance. And the advance, based on what I've seen, is automatically forgiven. Once it hits your account, it's forgiven. Will they ask to show, to double check forgiveness? That's what I said. Keep your expenses, track the expenses. You got $1,000, show how you spend that $1,000, put it on an Excel, save the file. Maybe they'll never reach out to you, which is good. But if they will, you'll have an Excel showing the dates that you paid an eligible business expense. Whew. Okay. Any other questions? Hopefully we kind of went over everything and all the questions. This has been almost an hour and a half. Wow. So I will try and load this on YouTube as soon as possible. If people have questions, I'll try and refer people to this. If I will see any more FAQs coming in, I will try and do maybe a follow-up, maybe at the end of, maybe in a couple of weeks or a week or two. But hopefully I answered everyone's question. Remember, I probably should have put a disclaimer at the beginning. I'm not a CPA. I've just researched hundreds of hours reading and doing the research, but I'm not a CPA. You should consult with a CPA if what I'm saying doesn't feel like it's right for you. This is what I've been doing. This is how I personally have been acting. And hopefully it's applicable and helped you guys too. 2:30, we have a session today with Seaborn. I'll see you guys in a few hours. Bye.